The first rays of dawn painted the streets of Lagos with a muted gold, but to many, it was just another day of survival. Among the bustling crowd, Adana Nkosi, Nigeria's youngest female billionaire, maneuvered her modest car through the tight roads. Despite her wealth, she despised attention. Today, she was visiting one of her new charitable projects, a shelter for the homeless in the heart of Ejiganal. As she parked beside a cracked sidewalk, her eyes caught a figure sitting by a crumbling wall, scribbling fervently into a battered notebook. His clothes were torn, his feet dusty, but there was an undeniable sharpness in his gaze. Something about him felt different. His name, she later learned, was Chidi Okafor. Adana's introduction was casual. She offered him bottled water and a smile, expecting little more than polite gratitude. But Chidi surprised her. His voice was rich, confident, and laced with wit. He spoke about economics, art, and governance like a man who had lived several lives. His opinions weren't just educated, they were profound. Curious, Adana found herself sitting on the pavement beside him, deep in conversation as the city roared around them. Over the next few days, she kept returning. Something about Chidi stirred emotions she hadn't felt in years. His laughter was contagious, his humility disarming. He never asked for money, nor did he seem impressed by her luxury SUV or expensive clothes. To him, she wasn't Adana Nkosi, queen of the tech world, she was simply Adana, the woman who listened. Yet questions gnawed at her. How could a homeless man discuss global trade intricacies with the ease of a university professor? Why did his hands, though roughened by street life, carry the grace of someone who once knew luxury? One evening, after a long conversation under a flickering street lamp, Adana confessed her confusion. Chidi only smiled, a distant sadness flickering in his eyes. "Not everything is as it seems," he murmured. The mystery made her heart ache. She wanted to help him, lift him from the streets. But every offer she made, to fund his education, to find him a job, he gently refused. "I'm where I need to be, for now," he said cryptically. Adana couldn't understand it, but she respected it. Against all logic, she found herself falling. Falling for the man with no address, no possessions, and a heart richer than any she had ever known. But what Adana didn't know was that Chidi Okafor wasn't just another struggling soul. He was the secret CEO of a powerful conglomerate, a man testing the loyalty and compassion of a world he had once controlled with an iron fist. Tired of boardrooms and false friends, Chidi had chosen this life to rediscover what truly mattered. And Adana, with her raw kindness and unguarded heart, was about to turn his world upside down. As the sun dipped below the Lagos skyline, painting the sky in hues of fire and ash, two hearts, one cloaked in riches, the other in rags, beat in rhythm, unaware of the storm that fate was already stirring. Weeks melted into each other, and Adana's bond with Chidi grew stronger. Every evening, she would return to that crumbling street corner, abandoning her high-powered meetings and glittering gala invitations, just to sit beside him and talk about everything and nothing. One dusky Friday, the city buzzed louder than usual. The governor was hosting an economic summit, and foreign dignitaries were flooding Lagos. Adana should have been there, shaking hands, striking deals. Instead, she found herself sneaking away, clutching two steaming bowls of jollof rice wrapped carefully in old newspapers. When she reached the familiar spot, Chidi was waiting, his face lighting up with a boyish grin at the sight of her. They sat on the broken curb, laughing, trading stories about their childhoods, his in Enugu, hers in Abuja. Chidi spoke of his late father, a man who taught him that wealth without wisdom was a curse. He spoke with a conviction that made Adana's heart swell with admiration. "You should be more than this, Chidi," she said suddenly, setting her bowl aside. Her voice trembled with emotion. "You are brilliant. You deserve the world." Chidi looked at her, long and hard, as though weighing an invisible burden. "I had the world once," he said finally, voice heavy with secrets. "But it almost destroyed me." Before Adana could press further, a black SUV screeched to a halt nearby. Men in dark suits poured out, their eyes scanning the street before locking onto Chidi. Adana's heart hammered in her chest. The lead man approached, bowing slightly. "Mr. Okafor, your presence is urgently requested at the summit." The street seemed to freeze. Even the usual chatter of the hawkers and the honking danfos faded into a stunned silence. Adana stared at Chidi, bewildered. "Mr. Okafor," she echoed. Chidi sighed, brushing the dust from his tattered shirt as he rose. In that single motion, it was as if a cloak had fallen from him. He stood taller, straighter, commanding. The homeless man she thought she knew vanished before her eyes, replaced by someone else entirely. "I owe you an explanation," he said, his voice soft but firm. Adana stepped back, her mind reeling. "Who are you?" she whispered. Chidi looked at her with a sorrowful tenderness. "I'm the CEO of Okafor Holdings. I left it all, the suits, the skyscrapers, the endless greed. I needed to find what was real again." Tears pricked at Adana's eyes, not from betrayal, but from the overwhelming sense of something slipping away. "You lied to me," she choked out. "I hid," he corrected gently. "But never from you. With you, I was just me." The men in suits waited patiently, knowing better than to interrupt. Chidi turned to her, desperation flickering in his gaze. "Adana, everything we shared, it was real. I need you to believe that." The golden evening light caught the edges of his profile, casting long shadows across the broken ground. In that moment, Adana realized she stood at a crossroads: walk away from the man who had deceived her, or trust in the connection that had blossomed between them in the most unlikely of places. The weight of the decision pressed on her chest as Chidi extended his hand. "Come with me," he said, voice breaking. But could she? Could love built on half-truths survive in the glaring light of reality? The night air trembled with the unanswered question. Adana stood frozen, staring at Chidi's outstretched hand. Around her, the familiar sounds of Lagos, the shouting vendors, the rumbling okadas, the pulsing life of the city faded into a distant hum. All she could hear was the thunder of her own heartbeat. Memories flashed before her eyes, the nights they sat on the cracked pavement sharing dreams, the way his laughter wrapped around her like a warm blanket, the sincere wisdom in his words. None of that was fake. She knew it in her bones. Still, trust once cracked could not be mended in an instant. Slowly, she stepped back, shaking her head. "I need time," she whispered, her voice trembling. Pain flickered across Chidi's face, but he nodded. "I'll wait," he said. "No matter how long it takes." Without another word, he turned and followed the suited men into the gleaming black SUV. The door shut with a soft thud, and just like that, he was gone, swallowed up by the world he had tried to escape. Adana remained rooted to the spot long after the car disappeared into the chaos of Lagos traffic. Weeks passed. The news exploded with headlines about Chidi Okafor's dramatic return to the business world. Some called it a publicity stunt, others speculated he had lost his mind. None of them knew the truth. Adana threw herself into her work, expanding her charities, investing in youth empowerment programs. But no matter how full her days became, an emptiness gnawed at her nights. Her heart warred with her pride. Could she forgive a man who had hidden so much, even if his reasons were pure? One afternoon, a letter arrived at her office. No assistance, no media frenzy, just a plain envelope with her name, handwritten. Inside was a simple note. "The richest man is not the one who owns the most, but the one who needs the least. You taught me that. Chidi." Folded with the note was a deed, transferring ownership of a sprawling piece of land in Ejiganal to her charity, no strings attached. Tears blurred her vision. Chidi hadn't come to reclaim her. He hadn't used his wealth to manipulate her feelings. Instead, he honored the love they once shared by supporting her dreams, quietly, selflessly. That night, under the same battered street lamp where they first met, Adana stood alone, the city buzzing around her. Suddenly, a familiar voice broke through the noise. "I was hoping you'd come back here." She turned, heart hammering, to see Chidi, no suits, no bodyguards, just simple jeans and a soft smile. "I didn't come to ask you for anything," he said. "I just wanted to see you one last time and thank you." Adana studied him, seeing not the billionaire, not the street wanderer, but the man, the heart she had fallen for. Maybe love wasn't about perfect trust or flawless beginnings. Maybe it was about two flawed people choosing each other despite the cracks. Smiling through her tears, Adana stepped forward. "Maybe," she said softly, "we can start again. This time, with no secrets." Chidi's face lit up with a joy so pure it made the night around them seem brighter. And as the city of Lagos pulsed on, chaotic and alive, two souls, scarred but wiser, found their way back to what truly mattered. Not wealth. Not status. But honesty. And a love that had survived the storm.